Greetings, my friends. How are you on this beautiful spring day? Now, once again, I want to thank you for the response to that video I did where I asked for ideas, topics for future videos. Now, the next one I'm going to attempt comes from Jupiter. And I quote, "I would love to see a video on characters in novels or fantasy fiction. It was you who led me to Kane by Wagner. Great, dark, and powerful, sinistrous, archetypal character. So, yeah, your favorite works in fantasy." Okay, this is somewhat easy for me. My favorite works in fantasy, well, my number one favorite character from fantasy is Conan the Barbarian. Now, this is important. I'm a purist when it comes to Conan. For instance, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, I know most of you were introduced to Conan by that film. Technically, it is a good movie, but that character, that Conan, was not, I repeat, not the Conan from the stories written by Robert E. Howard back in the 1930s, from 1932 to 1936. He wrote 18 stories for Weird Tales magazine, the same magazine that H.P. Lovecraft wrote for, or published most of his stories in. The fact is, the two of them were pen pals. And here's another bit of trivia. The Cthulhu mythos universe and Howard's Conan universe, if you will, are the same universe, because the two authors shared each other's characters. But anyway, getting back to the Conan movie, the Arnold movie, the Arnold Schwarzenegger film. I was originally introduced to Conan by the comic books back in the early 70s. I'm talking like 1971, 1972. And from there I got into the paperback books. And finally, the movie came out. I believe it was the summer, 1982. Went to the theater, anticipating something great. Now, the problem with that Conan is he wasn't, in that movie, he wasn't a barbarian. He was a gladiator slave. At one point, he gets smacked in the face by his sword instructor, and I was thinking to myself, fuck, if that was Conan, he would have grabbed him by the throat and squeezed until his fucking head popped off. Now, I will agree it's a good movie. Now, it was directed by John Milius, he hasn't made, I'm pretty sure he's still alive. I don't think he's made a film in years, but he's a good filmmaker. It still didn't capture the essence of the character. Now, I would compare this to, all right, let's say those original great James Bond movies had never been made, all right? And the first Bond movie was, let's say, directed by Milius, and it came out in 1982, all right? But instead of Bond being this suave MI6 agent, British, of course, it was a CIA agent. He was a CIA agent played by this guy. All right. Still, it was a good movie, but wouldn't have captured the essence of what those original stories were about. And that's my problem with the Arnold Conan. Good movie, didn't capture the character. All right? But while I was watching that, I kept telling myself, this isn't Conan. This must be his dumber cousin. And don't get me started on that awful sequel, Conan the Destroyer, or the even worse Conan series from the 90s, I think it was. That was a piece of shit. Now, here's something interesting. The Conan movie from 2011 with Jason Momoa, that was not a great movie, but Momoa did a better job at capturing the essence of the character. See, he was a fucking barbarian, all right? And he was smart. He wasn't a dumb shit gladiator slave, all right? But I digress. And what's interesting also is Conan is directly connected to what I am doing now with the sect of the Horn God and so on and so forth. Now, the character Conan is called Conan the Cimmerian, and in Robert E. Howard's mythos, if you will, the Cimmerians were the precursors to the Celts, the Gaels to be specific. And getting into Conan led to me getting into and researching the Celts, which led to my interest in Druidism, and the rest is history. Now, Kane. Karl Edward Wagner created a character named Kane. Some of you might be going, well, a name like Kane, that's not very original. You know, he's probably a red-headed Conan ripoff. Not quite. Now, first off, this Kane is loosely based on the biblical Kane. That's what Karl Edward Wagner more or less suggested in his writing. And he also stated that this Kane's father's name was Adam, and his stepmother was named Eve, hence hinting that Kane's mother was Lilith. Wagner described his character Kane as a gothic hero villain. He was not a good guy. He was something much darker. Where a character like Conan had a code, this guy was always looking to, let's say, cheat, lie, steal, kill to get ahead. And is a highly intriguing character. At the same time, even though you know he's a bad guy, something about him you really like. So my friends, I see a connection, a correlation between the love of fantasy, the fantastic, the horrific in literature, and an interest in the occult. So I'm asking you, what fantasy interests do you have? What do you think helped in literature, hopefully it isn't Harry Potter, that led you in this direction? Leave your comments down below, and please like, share, and subscribe.